Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you're playing characters Mannix, Galex, Gillian, George, or Theron, went too fast, turn back now, the video is not meant for you, there will be spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Catch up on our previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at RogueWatson.com. If you'd like to support the channel, check out Patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Andrew, Brian, Richard, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Crazy Pat, and Nick. Gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy Numa, Marco Stead, Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, aka Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard Lounge, and Sam. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. I get another week of preparing for Shilku Bay and Wormheart Mine. I've kind of gotten spoiled on having multiple weeks of preparing for sessions. I feel like summer we've ended up skipping a lot of weeks, and recently especially we had 2 weeks off of D&D, and then last week I was off D&D, so we've definitely had some extra prep time, which is good and bad because it just makes me more anxious and nervous about things that will unfold. The players will be... Hey, Crazy Pat, glad you can make it. The players will be reaching level 6 at the beginning of this week's session. So this is a normal session, by the way. Yay, we're finally back to normal. Finally level 6. I've really kept them at low levels for quite a while. In fact, we are coming up on session... what are we at? 45, 46, somewhere around there. And our previous campaign, Storm King's Thunder, ran a total, I believe, of 57 sessions. The entire campaign. And we're definitely not going to finish this one in like 10 or 11 sessions. So, I don't know if Tomb of Annihilation is just a lot longer, or if I have just paced it. The pacing has been a lot slower. I don't feel like it's been too slow, other than the fact that occasionally the players do mention, hey, where's my level up at? You know, and I do get that a lot. And that's partly because of the way it's just weirdly how all of this exploration stuff and the entire jungle is basically tier 1 difficulty, but there's so much good stuff in here. I tried to pack as much as I could and utilize as much as I could. And then the entire latter half is higher level. It's tier 2. So, oddly, they were slow leveling up in the early game, and it may actually speed up now in the next couple levels, which is really the opposite of how every other RPG works. You know, you get through those early levels very quickly. They onboard you to that next power level as quickly as possible, and then things start slowing down as you get higher level. Here, oddly enough, I kind of slowed things down, you know, for 3, 4, and 5. They were those levels for a long time, like 10, 11 sessions each. We average about 2.5 to 3 hour sessions. And now level 6, but between you and me, I only have them at level 6 for these 2 locations, which is, good morning, Lumpy, hello Arno, for Wormheart Mine and Frakhamar. Now, I do think that those are pretty big-sized dungeon crawls, and they could easily both take up 2 to 3 sessions apiece, so I think, in the end, frankly, what I've got planned for Shilku Bay is probably going to take up a session, so I think it'll end up being about the same, but compared to previous levels, oddly, level 6 may feel a little quicker. And then level 7 is pretty much just Omu. And then level 8, Fane of the Night Serpent, and level 9, Tomb of the Nine Gods. It feels shorter because these are all very much like one location, but then those locations are big and have a lot going on. Especially Omu is obviously humongous, and I have no idea how many sessions that will take, honestly. So, I don't know, maybe it'll all balance out. It just, on paper, you know, when it looks like I'm breaking it down by locations, it feels like the early game had the more, there were going to be those levels for longer lengths of time, and then things might speed up a little bit as I kind of get through, and especially in the opposite of Storm King's Thunder, where we actually sped our way. I mean, we were only level 1 through 5 for the first, like, 20 sessions or something. It was crazy, and then an entire campaign took place in Tier 2. Whereas this one, I mean, we've spent 45 sessions, and they're just now getting to level 6, is pretty nuts. I did not really expect that going into the campaign. I think it's worked out pretty well. But yeah, they've definitely been earning these level ups. So we'll level up to 6 at the beginning of tomorrow's session, and then I'm going to unleash the dragon attack in the bay. So if you watched our special episode we had last week, that basically the one that my wife DM'd, that is pretty much going to be our entire trip from Jahaka Bay to Shilku Bay. I really don't have any events planned on this. It's maybe a 2-day journey or something, and they've already done all the pirate stuff. I could do like one more pirate harassment, but it just feels honestly superfluous at this point. Like, I kind of need to get them back on track in the main story. We've done so much side stuff with the pirates and then with the Typhoon Palace. I really need to get them back to Cholt, get them on their way to Omu, and anything that's not that is, I don't want to say wasting time, because I think any kind of content can be good content, but you know what I mean. Like, I want to get them back on track into the main story. So we're going to fast track to Shilku Bay. I do have an encounter plan for that, which I mentioned this, I think, last week, maybe even the week before that, which is I want to unleash Tinder, the young red dragon, on the players as they arrive in Shilku Bay. I really want to do the Game of Thrones thing with the dragon coming down and strafing the ship like a bomber jet, just whoosh, and burning it up. What I haven't decided is how exactly I want to run this encounter, number one, and number two, how much damage I want to actually inflict on the ship. So number one, I'm torn between not even presenting the players with a battle map, which is very, very weird, because in Roll20, obviously, maps are a thing, a major thing. You don't have to use them, but I think 90% of the time you're going to use maps, because we're all interacting with this digital tabletop space, and it's such a good resource for map making. But I want to create a more cinematic moment rather than a tactical battlefield. And the second you give players a battle map, they're going to start thinking in terms of a tactical battle map and what they can do. And I don't necessarily want to prohibit them from doing that, but I really want to create a scenario where... And plus, this encounter is going to be less meaningful for what they can do. I don't know if I'm communicating this very well, but I literally want the dragon... Let's see. Oh, how does the dragon fly? As the dragon flies. Can I search red dragon? Yes. So a dragon has a flying speed of 80 feet. So that lets it easily fly down, unleash its fire breath, and fly up, and nobody can do jack crap about that in terms of any kind of melee attack or anything of that nature. So what I was hoping to do is create this almost flying environmental hazard. The players should be able to fire on it with ranged weapons. They have ballistas mounted on the ship that they can use, which of course takes up those 3 actions to then move and fire it. And I was literally going to have a plan where I could have the players choose, where are you on the ship and what are you doing? Are you in the back of the ship firing the ballistas? Are you in the... let's see, what does the ship look like? And I was going to roll like basically the equivalent of like a D4 to choose where the dragon is actually going to strike, and then its fire breath will just hit everybody in that area. So the reason I want to abstract this a little more is because I kind of want to cheat as a DM and make this dragon a little more powerful than what it would normally be if we were just doing a normal knockdown drag-out fight. And that is to power up its fire breath in terms of it can do it every run. Unless things get real dicey, I might back off from that. But in other words, it's recharging every round as it flies up into the air. Maybe it takes 2 rounds to circle back around. I haven't quite decided on that. And give the players things that they can do. Mainly as the dragon destroys chunks of the ship, I want the players to really use their actions to not necessarily just fight the dragon, but also to like save people on the ship or put out fires or rescue supplies and those kind of things. And I hope they pick up on the fact that that ship is going down and they have to be proactive about saving it, in addition to firing off and trying to fend off the dragon. As I don't think, not all characters are going to be blessed with superior ranged combat abilities and feel like they're going to make a difference in this thing. Plus, it's got an AC of 18. It is far from a hit on there. So I just feel like it might play out better if I actually don't use the tactical battle map and instead just keep it on this map, describe what's going on, and really try to use a theater of the mind encounter. And I hope that can go well because we don't really ever do that with my group in our play style. We pretty much always, if there's a combat encounter, we're always laying out the map, which is I think what you do in Roll20 normally. But I just think that if I just showed them the ship map, I don't know, and maybe I could. At the very least, if we actually use the ship map, we could have players run around. I could, put fires on here. You can see I've literally got like the dragon and the cone. But I was thinking to not even have these on the map. Just have this as an event that happens every round. Pretty much, the dragon swoops down, breathes fire, and it's not like the players can't do anything about it. But it's more of a timed event than it is a traditional combat encounter. This dragon will have as many hit points as it needs, honestly, to last a couple rounds to really drive home the fact that this ship is getting destroyed as the dragon does its job. Now, the other question I have, a concern I have, is do I actually want to destroy the ship? I could. Ooh, Roka's not here anymore, is he? Because he got spirited away last session. I'm of two minds of this. One, it would be freaking awesome cinematic moment if their ship goes down, and I could do it because they're basically where they need to go. Shilku Bay was pretty much their final destination for the ship, because from there they would then go back to jungle travel. They would go to Wormheart Mine, Krakamar, go east along the Valley of Lost Honor, and head towards Omu. They already know where Omu is. So their ship travels are done. So I could destroy the ship, and it wouldn't actually screw the players up that much. The only hesitation I have for doing that, and I think it would be a really cool moment, and drive home the fact that this dragon now has an extra personal, all the players, in addition to Hugh, wanting to take out the dragon for personal reasons, now all the players would have a reason to go after the dragon. The only reason I hesitate about that is because I don't want to add Captain Ortome and Grig and all these characters to the party because they would have no ship and thus would essentially be added as NPCs to the party, and I don't want to do that. That's the only thing keeping me back. Now, the obvious solution to there is kill them. Kill them in this ship raid, which is a hell of a thing to do. And I don't know how I feel about that either. It makes sense that she would go down with the ship, and I think I could make that a really cool moment. The players would probably try to rescue people as much as they could, hopefully. I mean, hopefully players try to be heroes. But I guess it depends on the tone I'm going for here. Do I want to create just kind of a more action-packed scene where everybody's jumping out of an explosion and it's, nobody's really taking any, it's all superficial injury, 90s action movie style? Or do I want to actually create an emotionally gripping, like, oh shit, we're losing the ship, we have to get out of here, survive by the skin of our teeth, wash up on shore, maybe we're only saved because Gillian and George have like swim speeds and can, get us to safety, that kind of a thing. And Grig and Ortome go down. Maybe Hugh and Mushari barely survive. Those kind of, and who knows with the players. That's also an option. And honestly, as of Thursday morning right now with the session on Friday night, I haven't decided where I want to go with this. I think that could be a really interesting, emotionally meaningful way to go, which we haven't had too many of those this session. I feel like Chris did a good job with several of those in Storm King's Thunder. Specifically with NPCs that players liked, that the main villain took out. And in this case, I think that could be... And the nice thing is, I am at a unique opportunity to destroy the ship, because the players are basically where they need to go. So they would be landing here anyway and moving on. I think that could be good. What does the chat say? That does sound fun, Lumpy. When the pirates be attacking the players or on approach, and then have the dragon tender show up, and it splits our attention between the two. Yeah, I could have the pirates in there. I feel like it is a little unresolved. Had I left any of the pirate captains alive, I feel like it would have been more justified to use the pirates. But as it is, I don't know. I did kind of leave them as technically the one first mate ran off and the other ship ran off. The players didn't really seem to have a good way of locking down the pirate ships, nor did they really have the means to do it necessarily. So, yeah, I just feel like it would. I don't know. I don't really want to use the pirates anymore. I just don't. I feel like their story is kind of completed, even though I did leave technically pirates out there. And in fact, I believe last session we talked about just docking the one pirate ship back at Chahaka Bay, so that they've got a ship. Which that's a nice, if they ever needed to get out of Schultz quicker, they could travel straight west and find that pirate ship they could get on to get out of here if we need an epilogue for that. But I definitely wanted them all on one ship because it was just too complicated, and they didn't have the means to have a whole fleet of ships anyway. They couldn't recruit all the pirates to their cause, so I'm not really too keen on using the pirates anymore. I like the idea of the ship going down, and if I kind of do a DM cheat here, and basically, the dragon's got, like I said, as many hit points as it needs. I would be pretty surprised if, I don't know, it'd be interesting. I mean, players always surprise me in terms of, never underestimate the players. They are level 6 now, so they'll be at technically a power level. This party will be at a power level I have not seen before. This is their first encounter at level 6. I'm throwing a dragon at them, which is awesome. Hey, you guys are level 6. You feel strong now? Well, fuck you. Here's the red dragon. They have not fought. Have we ever fought a dragon in any of our D&D campaigns? Like, straight up? We've encountered dragons. They talked to a green dragon in Phandelver, and they talked to a red dragon at the end of Princes of the Apocalypse. Technically, a dragon was the final boss fight in Storm King's Thunder, but Chris did a really interesting different mechanic with that, and we had a bunch of Storm Giant allies, so I'm not sure if that really counts. I would not count that as a straight-up dragon fight. And this one is this is not a straight-up dragon fight. This is the dragon literally doing strafing runs, using its flight and its fire breath to its utmost power in a place where the players really can't, they're kind of trapped here. Now, the dragon has a 30-foot cone. You can see here is the visualization on its fire breath, and it's obviously very difficult in Roll20 to visualize what does a 30-foot cone look like coming at an angle of this degree, how much in that, I don't know. So, oh, that's true, the 2 blue dragons in the desert. That's true, thank you, Lumpy. That was a straight-up fight, wasn't it? Were those 2 young blue dragons? I forgot about that. Yeah, we fought 2 dragons, that was crazy. I think it was just us, too. Did we have any NPCs with us? I don't remember. We had to have had somebody. Well, no, we had our dragon. We had Felgalos. So we had a whole dragon ally, which was a huge difference. I forgot what level we were for that, though. But my idea here with the cone, again, instead of painting this cone on the battle map and seeing who's in it, I was just going to describe where is everybody on the ship right now, and pretty much divide the ship into 3 quadrants. I guess technically 4, somebody can be below deck. And then roll a dice. Can I actually roll a D3? Does a D3 exist in digital form? It does. Okay, you can roll a D3 technically. Literally roll a dice, and everybody in that zone takes the fire breath damage. That's my plan of attack. Instead of trying to paint, where this cone is and who's all in it, I really want to keep things snappy, keep things moving, and just say, okay, everybody in the rear part of the ship, you just got blasted by fire. Give me dexterity saving throws. And then the dragon flies off, and you can spend another round essentially doing what you need to do, and things are blowing up. Fires are starting everywhere. And I'm going to have essentially create like a list of events that the player's going to have to react to, like, somebody's caught on fire and parts of the ship break apart, maybe a saving throw as the ship literally cracks. Players have to like roll a saving throw just to stay on the ship. I want to really create this epic hazardous moment rather than a battle. With the caveat, the players should still be able to shoot at the dragon and fend it off. But ultimately, alright, now I'm talking myself into it. Ultimately, this battle will end when the ship is destroyed. And then the dragon will simply fly off. Now, granted, it will probably take some amount of damage. It has an AC of 18. Only ranged attacks will affect it, but players can certainly hit a dragon from the air, so they'll be able to do some damage to it. But I'm really liking the idea of destroying the ship. I'm going to have to add some explosion. So I may still use... I may go ahead and use this pirate map just to let the players... Because I think that does keep players engaged if you at least let them see the immediate action rather than making it too abstract. Especially online. If we're at a table looking at each other, I think you can abstract this a lot better. But because we're online, we're on our screens, people can be on their phone, browse the internet, whatever... I think it does help to keep people engaged by maybe switching to this screen, but I probably just won't actually use, for example, the dragon token and the cone on here. It'll just be like I'll have fires popping up and destruction on the ship, and really drive home the fact that every time the dragon comes by and breathes fire, huge chunks of this ship are just being destroyed, and people are getting hurt and possibly dying. I mean, I don't think Mannix can take a single one of these. What does a red dragon breath look like? I think I might have actually rolled this last time. 16d6. Holy hell. 16d6. That's like 2 Mannixes. 57. And it's a DC 17 dex saving throw, which is far from a sure thing. Although, what are the players' dex saves like these days? Mannix has a +4. It's pretty decent. Celeste has a +9. She would have to really shit the bed to fail on that one. She's good at one thing and one thing only. Gillian has a +5. Bards are proficient dexterity. That makes sense. George has a +2. Theron has a +3. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9 are dex saves, I recall. So pretty decent across the board, but I mean, even half of that, Mannix could literally could succeed on this save and still go down. That's a mess of damage. And that creates a huge explosion of fire and burning. I will either roll randomly, or just to make things interesting, I may have the dragon go ahead and just spread that damage out, because it seems like it would maximize taking out the ship, so it would probably do like 3 strafing rounds. And probably divide it into 3 parts of the ship. So once it takes 3 runs with the fire breath, and again, it's going to have its fire breath every round. It's going to happen. I may do a thing where it takes an extra, if the players are really reeling, I may take a thing where it takes an extra round. But they've got all these extra NPCs with them. They've got Orname, they've got Hugh, Mushari. I mean, I don't see... I see things being hairy, but I only have 1 round compared to their, millions. And I'll probably just go ahead and hand the reins of some of these NPCs over to the players as well to make it a little more engaging for them, so it's not just half of my turns. They can operate these ballistas. The ballistas have the same stats they did when we did the pirate attack, so it's a +6 to hit, a range of 120, but it does take 3 actions to load, aim, and fire the ballistas. So at some point, I'm hoping that I'm not going to have just a cluster of a bunch of heroes around the ballista, because the ship is getting destroyed, and I want to have them be proactive about using their actions to actually save parts of the ship. And at some point, hopefully, the narrative will change from we're trying to take this dragon out to, oh shit, we're trying to just stay alive and save people and rescue things. Yeah, I think my goal will be to actually destroy this ship, which means they'll be pretty far into Shilku Bay. Um, I could definitely have them wash up on shore. Ortome and Grig will be gone, I think. Uh, you don't know if they're dead or not. Maybe that epilogue they survived or something. You don't know. It'll be like a what's his face from Game of Thrones who just randomly washes up to punch Jaime Lannister in the face. Spoilers. You don't know. I could leave them, but they'll be pretty much exited from the campaign at that point, unless the players do something very specific to specifically save one of those characters. But I would imagine they would work hard enough just to save themselves in this case. What if Gillian casts her hut, which is quickly becoming one of my most hated spells? Does Dragon Breath go through the hut? My plan is, I don't think she would be able to cast it because the dragon will literally, it's going to be really cloudy and hazy. The whole place is like volcanic ash and everything. And I'm going to have the captain suggest someone get in the crow's nest to try and see, be a spotter, because her crew has been horribly diminished by now. And whoever's up there can roll a perception check to try and see the dragon. If they fail, then the dragon gets a surprise round, which is going to really ratchet the tension. And if they succeed, then it'll be a normal combat encounter with the dragon approaching, so that'll be a little less. But I want to give them a chance to try and spot the danger. Although it could be that Captain Orme suggests someone goes up there and nobody does, so who knows. But I don't think she'll have a chance to cast her hut because they're not going to see the dragon coming. In other words, they will only get a chance to avoid a surprise round with the dragon. Yeah, it takes a minute. So that's how I'm eliminating the hut from this combat encounter. Screw you, hut. Put them at the end of the tomb. Yeah, I need to read more about the tomb and stuff. I've done a bad job of reading ahead of like Omu and the tomb and everything, because I try to be focused on what I'm planning for that session. But there are a number of captives, I believe, that can be placed in the tomb, and in the Fane of the Night Serpent as well. There's a number of captives there. In fact, I think the Fane of the Night Serpent is more interesting and more fun if the players are captured, and I still want to do that. That is a very hard thing to do. That is my goal at this point still, but we'll see. So I think I'm going to destroy this ship in a big cinematic moment, and frankly, this might take most of our session. Like I said, we'll level up at the beginning of the session, and then we'll unleash this dragon attack, and it could very well, depending on how slow things go, I mean, I am going to put them in combat, put them in initiative order, and they'll have options of things to do. It could take a while. I'm trying to think what are things the players could do to screw me up here. Mannix could blind the dragon, maybe. What is the distance on that? A 30-foot cone. My goal with the dragon is to always stay out of range of this kind of shit. And it's got an 80-foot fly speed, so it would be able to swoop down, breathe fire, and swoop out in one turn. And I don't think anybody will get a chance to use like George's Vine Whip or blinding or that kind of bullshit. Now, that's the difference between why this fight is so much difficult for the players, whereas the other one, when they actually go and fight the dragon in the cave, the players will have more of an upper hand there. So I don't think they can use, unless they have, I mean, they'll be able to use long-range spells, you know, the Magic Missile, Wand of Magic Mints, you know, Gillian's Fire Ray spell, although it's not going to be very effective against a dragon. If they're smart enough to use something like Gust of Wind or Fog Cloud, that could fuck me up. If they really get clever, with enveloping the ship in that way, I think only Gillian has that capability. If it's a Gust of Wind, that might delay the dragon by a turn, but I mean, it's like a tunnel, so I think it would be able to just kind of go around it. Gust of Wind seems like it's mainly good actually in closed spaces. Fog Cloud could be a problem. Can you cast Fog Cloud? Who can cast Fog Cloud? Can Theron cast? You can cast Fog Cloud. Fog Cloud is only a 20-foot radius sphere, so that's 40 feet. So that's only going to cover half the ship. So Fog Cloud's not going to stop the dragon. That's only, yeah, you can still see half a ship. I mean, it would technically, well, it wouldn't have disadvantage. It's a fucking fire breath. It doesn't care about aiming. It's going to just aim at the ship. So yeah, Fog Cloud doesn't matter. I'm literally trying to see, like, if anything could knock it out of the sky. Because Lord knows the players are going to come up with something that I haven't thought of. The bad thing is, you know, they're going to level up, so I'm not sure actually what they're going to take at level 6 either. They could have new powers that I'm not entirely aware of. Flaming Sphere is not going to help you. You've got Wall of Thorns. You could maybe conjure a flying animal that could attack the dragon, and that would do something. I'm okay with the players attacking the dragon. That should happen. And they're not going to see the dragon, and they don't, you know, in Roll20, the one thing I have hidden is the hit points, so they're just not going to know how much damage they do. I might not even track hit points on the dragon. Who fucking knows? Because my goal is basically going to be the same no matter what. So yeah, they can attack the dragon all day. I may go ahead and track it just to see if it gets below, like, you know, 100 hit points, or half its health or something. Maybe have it back off, but the ship will have taken too much damage. It starts cracking and going down anyway. And I don't think Wall of Thorns works. I think that's only on the ground. I think I should be able to get this off, the DM said tentatively. With my excellent strafing dragon, I don't see them having any other tools that I can think of. I mean, they can certainly use their levitating balloons to go up in the air, which I think is suicide, but I certainly will let them do that. The dragon will not be above... if for some reason somebody makes it in the air, the dragon could easily just fucking go by and do a horrendous bite, grab, and throw down attack that will probably kill that player. So, you know, by all means, fly up there and try to fight the dragon in the sky by levitating upwards. But yeah, I think I like the idea of taking them out here. Maybe have them suffer a level of exhaustion when they roll up on the shore. The bad thing is, all of this, there's still nothing preventing me from, nothing preventing the players from simply using Gillian's hut to long rest in the jungle, assuming she ends that fight with at least one spell slot, and I would imagine she would, because at this level they've got plenty of spell slots. 4, 3, 2, there's no way she'll have used them all. So she'll easily be able to use a spell slot to cast the hut, and they'll be able to get a long rest after that encounter, which will put them, you know, probably like here or so. Ooh, that's true, Manix. Could use Absorb Elements. That could be a great... That's funny, as I always give him shit for taking that spell instead of Shield. But that would be an excellent use of Absorb Elements, wouldn't it? Absorb Elements. Let's see, you have resistance to the triggering damage type until the start of your next turn. The first time you hit with a melee attack, and that part doesn't matter. So just gaining resistance would help. So if he makes the save and uses his reaction to cast Absorb Elements, he might survive a Dragon Breath. Good for him. Yeah, Tiny Hut is 1 minute. It's a non-combat spell, so it never really comes into play in combat, which is good, because it would be horribly broken. The one time it came into play in combat was during that Typhoon Palace entrance, because the players saw that there was a beast up ahead, but the beasts weren't hostile until they approached them, and they got the intel from that Speak with Plant spell, so they were able to prepare out of combat before the combat. So if they ever have a chance to do that, which I'm sure will come up occasionally, then she can cast that hut ahead of time and use it as this, like, mobile, or not mobile, but this command outpost that, I need to, like, Google search more on huts and how DMs deal with it, because that does seem like a very powerful spell to be able to create this like force field wall that they can shoot out of, but people can't shoot into. With the one caveat being it has a minute casting time, but still during certain like outdoor encounters, you would be able to get that going. But it seems mainly it's used for safe long resting, and I let them safely long rest in the jungle because of that. So after that encounter, they will hit the shore. Hopefully, Ordame and Grig are gone. I still want to leave them with Hugh and Musharib, so hopefully they will survive. And then the players can long rest. They will march toward a Wormheart Mine, and I want to only really do one encounter here. And again, I mentioned this whenever they reach level 5. We're pretty much beyond the hex crawl at this point. It's just, we did a lot of hex crawling early on. That's kind of what drug things along. I thought it was fun. Like, there was some very interesting encounters to do in Tomb of Annihilation. I'm glad we did them. But at this point, I don't think we really need to literally go, rolling encounters every day. In fact, I don't think I ever did that. I always just followed a template that kind of rolled everything for me and decided how often an encounter should occur. At this point, I'm not doing that at all. I'm just, whatever I feel like an encounter is going to happen, it's going to happen. And all the encounters need to be meaningful. They either need to mean something to the players or make sense in the story. So the only encounter I think I want between when they land at when they wash up on the shore of Shilku Bay to Wormheart Mine, which, as you can see, and I'll have them really get up close to Shilku Bay. They'll probably be like, here. They'll be just a few miles off the coast, which, I mean, still, nobody can really, the average person can't swim miles. So they'll be definitely washing up on shore, pretty fucked up. But from there, it is only 2 or 3 days travel to Wormheart Mine. I guess we could do 3 days. I'm not sure if that's technically on a hex right there. To really zoom in on this map. That's on the map level anyway. I don't want to jack with it. So I think I only want to do one encounter, and the other reason I don't want to do a whole lot of encounters is because at this point the players are long resting in between all the encounters. So that creates that weird dynamic of balance in D&D that plagues a lot of overland hex crawl travel, in that, well, what do you do if players can simply long rest before and after every encounter? D&D 5th edition is not at all balanced for that. It completely disregards all the short rest stuff, making classes like Warlock a lot more useless, and gives the players a huge power boost when they know they can completely replenish their resources and spend the resources before and after these encounters. So those can be enjoyable for players. If you have too many dungeon crawls, it gets exhausting. It is fun to be able to know you can unleash all your shit in a fight. I get that. But you don't want to do too many of those either. You don't want to just have nothing but those. So the dragon fight will be an example of one where they can unleash all their stuff and then long rest at the end of it. And then the other encounter I have is a Commandant encounter, which is one of the few unique denizens of Chult that we have not fought yet. And I believe it, along with the Gorillans, are like the strongest ones. The Gorillan is, I want to say CR4? Yeah. The Gorillans are CR4, and the Commandants, I think, are also CR4. Indeed. So, a cool creature that is like a leopard Medusa, and it is on George's personal quest of Monster Hunter, so relevant to the party. So it checks that box on why I want to have this encounter. Now, the players are level 6, which means they are at the top end of what the random encounters of Chult can provide. The book says to do 1d2 Commandants on the players. That assumes they are levels 1 through 5. I think I'm going to unleash 4 of them on the players, with a possible surprise round, because they have a stealth of 7, plus 7, which means I literally treat them as rolling a stealth 17. So I would have like 2 of them attack in the first round, and then of course do the classic raptor move where 2 more come in the side because it's a jungle and shit can come from anywhere. Have 2 more come in from the side. And the reason I feel like I can unleash a lot more is because, again, they are long rested going into this fight, and they can long rest at the end. So I can really make these random overland map encounters a lot more powerful and difficult and challenging than a dungeon fight, because dungeons are designed to chip away at the resources, whereas this one, they can expend all their resources. So I need to kind of up my game with those random encounters and want them to be meaningful. And I think these guys are pretty cool. They have a sleep breath, so for a DC 12, they can essentially knock everybody unconscious for 10 minutes. No, I do not know what my plan is if they literally successfully knock everybody unconscious. I don't know what I would do. I would have to make like a cave map, and this turns into a completely different thing as the commandants, or players get dragged back to like a cave or a nest or something. I'm assuming that's not going to happen. The players, at least some of them, are quite good at Constitution. I mean, Theron has like a plus 10 or something ridiculous. Let's see, he's a plus 7 Constitution. I don't remember if he has advantage or not. Oh no, he just got proficiency. Okay. He has the resilient feat. Plus 7 con. I imagine George has a plus 6 con. For some reason, Celeste is an plus 5 because she just has a big constitution. So con is actually pretty good on the players. But basically what that does is it costs players an action to be able to wake up their ally. And that's huge. If you can take away an action from a player in combat, that is a huge ass thing. They can only do it once, but each of them can do it one time. So I would probably have the two that come at the players. One of them unleashes the sleep breath, the other one starts attacking, and then the two more on the side come in, and one by one all of them can try to do that exhaustive gas stuff and try to knock the players out and create some more tension. In addition to that, they can also bite, claw you, and attack you with snakes, which do a rather frightening amount of poison damage with another con save possibility. And they just have a mess of hit points. Not great armor class because they're beasts, but actually they're not beasts, they are monstrosities. So Theron, you cannot chat with them or placate them. I do have a map set up for this. If they're sailing around the coast to the mine, are you eventually going to have them run down to the snout of Omgar and run the turtle package? No. Well, A, I'm declaring that I'm destroying their ship here. B, I already ran part of the turtle package, which is the Typhoon Palace dungeon that we were just at for the last 4 or 5 sessions. That is the marquee dungeon of the turtle package. So instead, I moved that dungeon to Chult and ran that there. So that was my using of that location. But no, I want to get things back into Chult. I want to start. I'm going to hit up Wormheart and Hrakamar and then really get the players to Omu, because we're going to be over 50 sessions of this campaign before the players reach Omu. And I've had a lot of fun with this campaign, but we really need to get into that section of the game. At this point, I don't think I need to add any more side content. I may look into Omu and see if I can make that a little bigger and more interesting and maybe create some more avenues in Omu, but I want to get the players to Omu as soon as I can, while still doing a few tie-ups of loose ends. Theron's personal quest will be Wormheart Mine and dealing with the dragon and everything, and helping Hugh. And the players should want to go to Hrakamar and deal with Musharib. All of that is good content, but then I want to get the players to Omu after that. So this is the Commandant map. You can see the dynamic lighting is here, which probably makes more sense if I do this. So this will be a chance where passive perception of 17 or higher, which I believe is only Mannix. He has a certain set of skills, none of which involves combat, but he has an 18, so he will not be surprised as these Commandant launch themselves at the players. So they will get a surprise round plus Mannix, which could also be deadly and shocking, because one of the Commandants will unleash a sleep gas on basically everybody here. 30-foot cone will hit everybody initially that they'll have to save, and then the other one will immediately come up and start attacking whoever is in front. And then that'll be round 1, and then round 2 will start normally with everybody having a round, but on the Commandant's turn, another 2 Commandant will emerge from the sides and attack the players. This could actually be really dicey. 4 CR4 NPCs. Now, as I said, the players are going to be level 6. They are going to be fully rested, and they're going to have Musharib and Hugh Hackenstone. Now, Musharib is useless in my campaign. I've made him a pacifist. Does he have healing spells? He could heal. He does not. He is basically useless. He has Hunter's Mark he could cast on somebody. Otherwise, he would run away and hide. Not very useful. Stupid Musharib. Hugh, however, would be able to assist the players. So, it looks difficult on paper, but they have a very bad ace armor class. So, I think, depending on how that surprise round goes and the saves, it's all going to come down to the saves on the sleepcast stuff. Really is going to change the difficulty level. But this is really the only encounter I have between Shilku Bay and Wormheart Mine, and then George will be able to gain one of the recipes on his personal quest, which is to hunt certain monsters. So he will get the gas gland of a combat. Now, I talked about this last week, where I thought that George would have a snake skin of a giant snake by now, but for whatever reason, I haven't actually had a traditional giant snake fight the players as of yet. So he doesn't have that, and I wanted him to have it by the time the players get to Omu, and there's not a chance to unleash a giant snake unless I just randomly added one somewhere in Wormheart Mine or Hrakhamar. But I'm thinking, would it be too weird to just let him find a snake skin? I know the point of it is to fight these creatures and harvest them, literally Monster Hunter style, from the creatures themselves. So I guess it'd be kind of a cheat if I don't unleash it, if I don't give him a chance to fight a giant snake at this point. He had a chance at the Typhoon Palace, but they didn't decide to go that way. There was that one thing in the upper right corner of the entrance that they didn't go in. And then I guess they just didn't end up finding a giant snake at Oralunga. The only one was the stone snake, which of course wouldn't have dropped a snake skin. So I haven't quite decided how I want to give him the snake skin, but I want to have him complete this by the time they get to Omu, because he will get an updated one that says your final task is to take out the King of Feathers, which is this magically teleporting Tyrannosaurus Rex in Omu. So it's a straight up T-Rex fight, which could be really fun, and I think definitely a cool boss moment for George to be able to fight that. So I want that to be the end of it, which means I need him to have a quiet. Well, maybe I could go as late as on the way to Omu. He could get the snake skin, so maybe I could still do a giant snake encounter there, and then, or maybe into the entrance to Omu, and then he gets the message to take out the King of Feathers there. So I've got some time to plan for that. So that is that encounter. If I made time of day table for long resting and encounters. Basically, ask the players what time of day they long rest, and we'll try to see what time of day the encounter happens. Makes it so even if they are long resting every day, they might not still get them between encounter. I could definitely see that. Yeah. Yeah. So multiple encounters a day is definitely a way to go about it. Here, though, the way that Schultz worked and the way that I've done it is that every day you do have a chance for up to, I think, 3 encounters a day, but I don't think I've ever actually done more than 2 combat encounters a day, because holy shit, the hex crawl, I mean, it would take us 4 years to get through this campaign, honestly. if we literally did multiple combat encounters for every hex that we moved, would be nuts. So, I mean, even then, it felt like I was speeding things up a little bit, and it still took us a long time to get through even just this amount of session. So, I can see that being a thing, but the fact that each hex takes a day, it would be really, really slow going to unleash multiple combat encounters in one hex. So, that's why I did my plan of just letting them spend multiple days, but not letting them use a long rest, instead having to use short rests in between, which I think worked for up until we made level 5, and then Gillian got the hut to solve that problem, and at that point the encounters were going to be less draining on the players anyway. So, and I'm okay with just unleashing fewer encounters at this point, but having them be just more powerful It's that classic like Elder Scrolls. The world's kind of leveling up with you. Uh, so if the players had encountered the Commandants earlier, they'd only fought 1 or 2, but now that they're level 6, they're gonna fight 4, for example. The Tomb Companion book has some cool non-combat locations. Yes, I think I have that book actually. I do need to look more into that. And that is good like flavor text too, that I'm bad at because I usually just hand wave over until the next like notable thing instead of really drawing players into, you see the birds flittering about and there's a tree with fruit that you can pick and it tastes great and all that kind of stuff. In the jungle, they spot a group of giant snakes in a huge snake pit. To get the skin off one, they will have to fight them all. Another snake pit? I could do that. I had one in Oralunga. A giant snake orgy somewhere. My wife would literally like just turn around and walk out of the session, I think. She would just be like, nope, good luck, George. Deathly afraid of snakes. Which means Kaless is as well. So yeah, I think I could still plan on a snake encounter at one point. What about a bunch of snakes that have wrapped around each other to make an even more gargantuan snake? God of the snakes. The other option is I give them the snake skin. If I could even drag it in all the way to the Fane of the Night Serpent, where there's definitely snakes there. It's fucking the UNT. Assuming they don't reach the King of Feathers before I capture them, which I think will be the case. I'll basically have to do more research on Omu. Which means I need to start getting ahead of here. How is it already almost noon? I haven't even talked about Wormheart Mine yet. God damn it. I have too much fun discussing my plans. And not enough actual preparations, because I have got to prep Wormheart Mine also. So I don't think we're going to get to Wormheart Mine tomorrow. Between leveling up to 6, which we always take time talking about what we did, and we roll hit points and stuff. And then the dragon fight, and then the Commandant fight, I think that will take up our session. Exactly like a Rat King kind of deal. But with snakes. So I don't expect we would actually reach Wormheart Mine until next week. But I have got to prep this because I am out all next week, including I'm not going to be here for Crafting Annihilation next week. I'm literally on vacation out of town from Monday through Thursday. But we should be able to do D&D on Friday, assuming I can have enough prepped for that, which I've done a really bad job because this is, so far, as is on Wormheart Mine. So things that need to change from Wormheart Mine. I think it's a really neat location. It's very frightening to run as a DM because the players could do all kinds of shit. They could just hop in a cart and roll their asses all the way down to the dragon. They could activate the entire dungeon and have kobolds raining hell on them. Or they can take things very slowly and carefully. They can split up. They can take the high road, the low road. It's absolutely nightmarish to run for a DM's point of view in terms of you just don't know where they're going to go or be at any one point. But I will do my best. Number 2, I'll probably give them some like medical kits, maybe some scrolls, healing supplies in here. Maybe with a good perception check or something. Give them some actual loot because I guess they got a good amount of loot from the Typhoon Palace, didn't they? I gave them some good shit in there. Ooh, that was the other thing, is I gave Gillian a really powerful set of bagpipes with extra spells. I hope none of those spells can fuck up the dragon. I think I want to scale up some of the kobolds, but not all, because there should be some fodder in here that players can murder quickly. But I don't literally want to keep like a bunch of 5 hit point kobolds for the players to fight, because those are kind of pointless. I like the idea of the Kobold Inventor. It has a really, really fun idea behind it, which is that they can hurl different things at the players, which is hilarious. Besides like Alchemist Fire, they can throw a basket of centipedes, which is spawning a swarm of insects, or have a scorpion tied to a stick that they poke with the players, release a skunk in a cage, throw wasps, which unleash a swarm of wasps. All those are really cool ideas. I like that a lot. But I think I'm going to have to scale them up, because right now they die in basically one hit. And the Tomb of Beasts, which I believe is by the same designer as Tyranny of Dragons, which of course had a bunch of kobolds in it, lists a kobold trapsmith and a kobold chieftain, which the trapsmith is similar in idea to the Inventor, but I think the Inventor works better because the Inventor is simply using its action to hurl things to players, whereas the Trapsmith has to set up all these little traps, which I think Warm Heart Mine already has some built-in traps, but I will create a bunch of other traps here. And hopefully Manic should feel really good about being able to come through and spot a lot of these traps, because my party actually has one character specifically designed to be like the trap deterrent. And I want to make him useful by, being able to find and disarm a lot of these traps. So I'll probably put a bunch of traps out. But stat block wise, I think I'm actually going to use the Trapsmith because it has an AC of 14 and average hit points of 36. So that allows. So I'm going to use the actions of the Inventor, but the actual combat abilities and defenses of the Trapsmith to create basically an Inventor that just lasts longer. So I'll need to, I guess, duplicate this character and create my own. I guess I'll keep the old one just for posterity's sake, but I want to make the I feel the need to scale this dungeon up a little bit, because I feel like Wormheart Mine, Hackamike, all of the locations outside of Omu are designed for between, I believe, levels 1 through 5. And my players are entering at a level 6. I feel like I need to scale things up just a tad. I also need to change. So I can keep some of the kobolds, but I think I'm going to make some of them my new Inventor stat block. And then I definitely want to use at least one of the kobold chieftains as the leader of the kobolds. I get that Tinder is their de facto leader, but it seems like they would still be a leader of the kobolds themselves. Which that chieftain is legit. Again, using the Tomb of Beasts, it's a CR4, armor class 17, hit points 82. It's like a berserker with its freaking stats. So it's actually a really powerful kobold. So that could be a really fun kind of mini boss that they have to fight on their way to the dragon. So I want to make the kobolds a little more meaningful rather than just murdering a whole bunch of kobolds. But I think their main strength, the fun of this dungeon, is the really inventive traps that are involved here that the kobolds have set up. It's almost like just a hilarious roller coaster ride of death that hopefully the players will want to join in on. Nothing would please me more than George just dives into this cart and just said, "Who's coming with me?" and they just fucking roll down this thing, and I can unleash all hell on the players. I think that will be hysterical, but ultimately that's going to be up to the players to decide how they go about this dungeon. But I'll need to scale it up slightly. Let's take a brief look at it. And culminating in the dragon fight. Let's see, chapter 2. Which is at the bottom, which should give... they destroyed the ship. They lost their captain, all those people. They'll have a personal interest in defeating this dragon, in addition to Hugh wanting to do that. And the players, depending on their actions above, may even catch the dragon unawares. So the cool thing is, they'll know how powerful this dragon is, for the fact that it took out a whole ship. But... And I'll flavor the fact that because it just did that, a couple days ago, it's going to be fully rested and healed up, but maybe it's just resting at the moment. The players will have more of a chance with it when they've got their own tactics here, and the dragon's more confined. It can't really fly around very effectively here, which will definitely be part of the player's advantage. But a CR10 dragon should still be a pretty deadly fight, especially because one cone of its fire breath will take out a lot of folks. Wormheart Mine. So I've read this so many times now. So I'm not doing Crafting Annihilation next week. I think might be the first time I've actually we've skipped D&D a number of times in the last year. I don't know if I've ever actually missed a week of Crafting Annihilation. I'm sure it has happened. It's probably happened like 2 or 3 times actually, where I've gone for an extended weekend and had to not be around Thursday. But not very often. It's also, I'm pretty sure, never happened where I have not been here for Crafting Annihilation, but I am here for Tomb of Annihilation. That will be a unique setup, so I won't get a chance to prep for next week. which means I really need to have this one. I need to figure out how I'm going to change the Haunted Forge, because in my campaign, spirits, which should have been true anyway. I don't know if this is an oversight or what, but well, no, I guess it's just my campaign. So in the book, people who have been raised from the dead are dying again because that magic's no longer working, and their soul is sucked into the soulmonger. In my campaign, everything that dies, it's like Walking Dead rules. Anything that dies, their spirit is being sucked into the soulmonger, and the body is raised up as an undead as a result. What that means is, as a consequence, there are no really ghosts or spirits around. Now, I've got around this 2 times. Once, an encounter on the ship, because they literally fought a bunch of spirits on their way getting sucked into the soulmonger. So they fought a bunch of these same Spectre stat blocks. And then the second one was at the Typhoon Palace, because there was a force field protected by Umberly around the area, so it was actually trapping them in there. And I even made that part of the story where they could rescue, or they had to, her brother had to possess Killian's monkey, because if they just released him, and released him from the palace, his spirit would then be sucked into the soulmonger. So that is a thing in my campaign, which means I can't just have a bunch of ghosts around, because that would create a plot hole, a continuity error. So unfortunately, any case of ghosts and spirits, I have to change. I could either change them to straight up undead, but then why would a bunch of straight up undead be right next to kobolds? Doesn't make any sense. The reason this is set up right here, and it even says, let's see. Well, I thought it mentioned that the kobolds don't go in here. If the one associated with the back of the chamber is scorched in black. Dozen or more charred skeletons litter the chambers. 1 dwarf skeleton is more recent, which is part of Hugh's expedition. 6 specters haunt the forge, 3 in each chamber. That's all that's left of the mine's dwarven defenders. Attacked by a spectre. Okay, well, somewhere it mentioned that the kobolds just stay out of here. Maybe that's in area 6. I thought it did. I'm just making this up. Which, I don't know. I may just make it empty. I don't. Maybe just put more kobolds in there. It just doesn't seem like I can actually utilize the specters, and it just seems weird that kobolds would just be right next to a bunch of haunted area with undead ghosts right next door. So I'll either put more kobolds. I'll probably just stick a bunch of more kobolds in there. Let's just get rid of these specters. I appreciate some variety in creature design, but they just don't quite fit my campaign and what I'm going for. So instead, I'll put some dead bodies. Although, wouldn't the kobolds then have moved those as well? Probably. They'll probably have stacked them up outside and roasted them. I need to really think about this logically, because this is not just a haunted dungeon. This is actually a home for creatures. I'm going to try to make that slightly logical. In fact, I think 6B is literally a nursery. Yeah, egg nursery. Protect their eggs with flinty resolve. Total of 30 eggs. Although kobolds suck. They're probably CR18. I mean, these are level 1 creatures. But it's fair to have some, this is not a combat outpost. This is their home. So there would definitely be a bunch of just no-name small kobolds in there. And they could probably rush in and attack with their, stupid, what do they have, slings. Just fire off at the heroes. But mainly it'll be these inventors that'll be attacking the heroes, and all the various traps that can hit them. And if the players come in guns blazing, then certainly all the kobolds will be ready for them. So I can try to use tactics as well as I can, put the kobolds in interesting positions as the players decide to either trudge down with the cart or with the stairs. And if they make enough of a racket, then the dragon should probably be ready for them by the time they come down here, which could have some interesting consequences. And then from there, once they do that, we'll have to decide how they handle Hugh. If Hugh just stays behind in the mine, in the empty mine for whatever reason, and they can go on to Harakamar, which I'll be able to prep that hopefully soon as well, so I can get back ahead. All right, thank you to everyone for joining me for this week's Crafting Annihilation. I'll be back streaming more Tales from Candlekeep Tomb of Annihilation tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow evening will be our Tomb of Annihilation session. And as I mentioned, I am going to be out all of most of next week on vacation. So you'll not get any videos from me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or streams or anything. However, Friday should be a normal day. Should be a normal Let's Play stream, and then Tomb of Annihilation that evening. So in terms of our best stuff, that should still happen next week. I'll see you all tomorrow.